I was to start over on woodworking today with the knowledge that I have now, I'd heavily invest in two categories first: layout tools and sanding. Today I've got 4 things for you guys to think about that can really make a big difference when it comes to sanding. This Makita 5-inch random orbital sander, well actually both of these Makita sanders, have served me well for many years. They're easy to replace if they break, and out of all the other box store type sanders that I've used in the past, they are by far my favorite. Recently, I upgraded to the Festool ETS EC125/3, and for those that don't know, this is again a 5-inch random orbital sander with a 3mm stroke. So it's pretty close spec-wise to the Makitas that I'm already used to using. Now, this isn't an ad for Festool or anyone else for that matter, so before you get all huffy and puffy and anti-Festool, just relax. I've always been kind of skeptical about spending the extra money on any premium sander just because it's just a sander. I mean, what more could we possibly be getting with the extra money that these things cost? Have you ever been standing on a project where you want crisp, sharp edges and the sander keeps rounding over the edges and corners? Maybe even so much that you give up and decide to put roundovers on everything and then pretend that roundovers were a part of the design the whole time? Yeah, me too, which is why the first add-on I bought when I got my new sander is a replacement hard pad. Now, don't get me wrong, the standard issue soft pads work great in a lot of applications, but you simply cannot beat a more rigid pad when it comes to trying to maintain crisp edges because it doesn't have the tendency to roll over the edges like the soft pads do. It's kind of like the difference between using a sanding block and a sanding sponge. It does take a little bit to get used to, but once you figure out when and where you can use a more firm pad, it's amazing. Well, it's about as amazing as sanding can get anyways. A part of my biggest issue when I was shopping for new sanders is the overwhelming amount of models and trying to decipher between the model numbers and what they mean and all the differences. It takes quite a bit of patience. But I finally landed on this one because it was close to what I was already used to as far as stroke size and pad diameter goes. And I already had a whole arsenal of 5-inch discs that I had already invested in. So switching to a 6-inch sander would mean investing in all new 6-inch discs, and well, that sounded expensive. Let me just say though that 6-inch pads are absolutely amazing and in my opinion worth every penny. Now I cheated a little bit here and hopefully Festool never sees this in case I need to do a warranty claim, but I upgraded to 6-inch pads even though I have a 5-inch sander. Yes, you can do that, although I don't think it works the other way around. At any rate, upgrading to 6-inch pads makes a huge difference in stability simply because you just have more footprint. With my 5-inch sanders, I sometimes find it easy to not stay completely flat on the workpiece as I unknowingly apply a little too much pressure in one side of the sander or the other. Now, a part of that can be attributed to the hard pad versus soft pad that we just talked about, but having a larger footprint still makes a world of difference either way. Because of the larger surface area you can reach out to and just past the edge of a workpiece and completely eliminate the tipping sensation that commonly happens with 5-inch sanders, because you still have so much pad that's still resting on the workpiece. I also noticed that the sander feels more balanced when a dust collection hose is attached. It doesn't quite feel as heavy on the dust port side of the machine with a 6-inch pad as it does with a 5-inch pad. Now, speaking of dust collection, this is by far one of the cheapest, easiest sanding upgrades that you can possibly make, and something that I started doing long before I ever upgraded the sander itself. I used to use the Makitas with a shop vac, and it worked what I'll call mostly fine, so I won't go into the whole shop vac versus dust extractor debate, but I will say that if you don't already use a vacuum of some sort when you sand, you're missing out. Besides the obvious reason of sucking up the dust and keeping your shop and your lungs clean, hooking up a vacuum will also help keep your sanding discs from clogging and keep them running cooler, both of which will extend the life of your sanding discs and your sander. Depending on how good the dust collection is designed on the sander itself and how strong the pull is coming from the vacuum, it can actually help keep your sander flat on the workpiece as well. The last thing I want to mention real quick is the quality of the sanding discs themselves. Now, I have not gone outside the Festool granite disc yet for the 6-inch pads, but for the 5-inch pads, I've used this 3M Cubitron disc for a long time, and I recommend them to pretty much everyone. If you're looking for a budget-friendly upgrade, better sanding discs could be just the thing you need. Not only do they seem to cut faster, the cutting action seems to last a lot longer in general. I also like that they have these sort of one-size-fits-all hole patterns so that they play decent enough with most dust extraction hole configurations. In my current situation, this is a huge benefit as I don't have any of the 5-inch 120 grit discs with a Festool hole pattern. Yes, after all that talk about the 6-inch pads being a huge upgrade, I need to use a 5-inch hard pad for these tapered table legs. Hey, it's good to have options.